Well, dare I say, we had so much fun with that thrifting video yesterday, and hopefully you had as much fun as I did. It was inspiring for me and just very festive. So that spawned a number of different questions and comments that I got, and that is, where do I store my thrifted things? Well, I have done a video on this in the past, but I thought, because we've got so many new followers, that I would show it again today. So this is in my basement. You can probably tell from the audio quality that I'm down under. And this is where I store a lot of things. There are other locations which I will also show you, but this is where I have different containers, different pots, some of my basket collection, some of my wire pieces that I use. This is where I store that wonderful wood vase, faux bois container that I did with Southern Living a while ago, and I will be bringing it out for the holidays. So it's just a hodgepodge of different things, but there's typically always room to stash one thing more, which leads me to, I guess, my number one thrifting tip, because you guys inquired about any thrifting tips that I could share. And that is, number one, always thrift your home first. So if I see an inspiration photo, an inspiration image anywhere, whether it's in a magazine, on Pinterest, whatever, I dissect that and then I see if I've got something similar. And that's what I did with the candy canes yesterday. But here I've got different lanterns. I've got a sieve. You can see that I like all of the natural stuff. So baskets and wood. Sometimes I even will save wood pieces, interesting bark, and those will be reinvented and resurrected to reuse in another way. This is where I have some of my garland. Again, this is a hodgepodge. I'm actually going through it and straightening it out and getting rid of some things. The other thing that I'm going to be doing, since I struck out looking for containers for my candy, I've just decided to, again, shop my own basement. And I'm sure I've got, as you will discover, an abundance of different baskets and things that I can use. So this basement area is not only where I store my things, my wreaths, etc., but it's also where I exercise. So you can see the cute little stone fireplace down here. And when my kids were little, this is where they would play. Now this is where I play and exercise. And speaking of baskets, look at this mammoth basket right here. So that is this area. There's another utility space down here in the basement where I store in tubs my Christmas decorations and seasonal items, and I'll show that to you. Well, in this utility area, this is where I just have my tubs of decorations. This is an area that gets kind of cobwebby and buggy, and periodically I have to clean it out. But I've got some things hanging in here, and this is where my Christmas decorations and such are held. It could be far more organized. I'm actually in the process of going through and getting rid of a lot of things, which brings me, I guess, to my next thrifting tip, and that is, whatever you bring home, take out twice as much. So even though I do thrift, and I have lots of thrifted items, as you have seen, I use them for a while. And this includes both my interior decor things and also my clothing. I'll use things for a while, but then I will also download them rather quickly. And I have Goodwill, Salvation Army, Habitat for Humanity. I've got them on speed dial, and they get as many things as I bring in. Now, my next area of storage is largely in my dining room. A lot of it is behind cabinetry. So a number of years ago, and look at that wonderful, brilliant sunshine coming in the window. You can see my wreaths in profile from the back. But a number of years ago, we had these mahogany built-ins created so that I could, this is where I can store more of my china items, some of my vases. There is storage below, and there is storage on both sides. And both of these have interior lighting, so I can see a little bit better what I need. And then of course there are shelves that go across the top. Now, once you open these cabinets and drawers, they're pretty packed. And again, I've already given away a lot of stuff, and I'm getting ready to get rid of and gift even more. So this is one area, and these are for the nicer thrifted items. So let me show you some of the other kind of hodgepodge items. Well, if you followed me for any length of time, you probably recognize this Ralph Lauren red armoire, which when I painted it, it was exactly the same color as the walls because I love tone-on-tone things. This is a piece that I had before I was married in my home that I owned several blocks from here. And I actually used it in my bedroom as more of a wardrobe. But later I decided to use it as a storage unit. So this was kind of fun. It originally was just an unfinished pine. Now I'm kind of embarrassed to show you the interior, but this was an unfinished pine. And when I had them paint the exterior, I had them stain the inside, and the inside is really beautiful. And I considered for a while turning this into like a mini office, a la something you probably have seen in Martha Stewart, because I just loved the wood. And I could use it open and store china in here, and I think it would be beautiful. But right now you can see that it is more useful to just hold some of the detritus of my life. So this is where I have bowls, pitchers, candlesticks, vases, just whatever I kind of want to stash rather quickly. I've got some serving pieces in here, and there's a drawer below where I also have some things stored. And the contents of this is typically material and items that I've used fairly recently. So the stuff that I haven't used recently is downstairs. Then these are the things that I'm going to use or that I have recently used. Now above here, because I think baskets are just inherently beautiful, and that's my question of the day. What type of thrifting items do you find inherently beautiful and you don't feel like you need to hide them? So this is filled, the top is just filled with lots of baskets. I have baskets everywhere. I'm a nut for them. I have a basket obsession. So you can see that this is just another storage area in addition to my basement where I store some things. And then outside in my office, I also store some things there occasionally. So this is my tip number 3 about thrifting. A lot of these items refer to different projects that I have been inspired by that I have saved on Pinterest. Stuart, let's put up a couple of those images. And how I want to recreate a vignette or just recreate some kind of look. And right now, one of the projects that I'm working on, and you can see an example right here of a vase that I'm going to try to transform with some leather strippings. I saw some high-end candlesticks that were basically just glass, and they had some leather trim on them. And I'm going to see what I can do to transform them. And then I'm also looking for pieces that aren't just, obviously this time of year, they may not just be Christmas related, but something that I might want to create in the future, because you probably, like me, are always thinking about not only this season, but the next season. So that's my third tip. When you when you go thrifting, look at your inspiration images first for materials that you might use to transform them into something magical. Another question I got a lot was, when I'm shopping for clothes, how do I discern what might be valuable to me and pick it out of the masses of clothing that they have hanging on the racks? Well, for me, if I isolate it down to 3 things, I would say it's texture, color, and pattern. So if I just glance at the rack, these things, as you can see, would kind of jump out at you. And so if I just see anything, I don't pay attention to size really, though I'm generally shopping in my own area or my own size rack. But if I see something and it strikes my fancy, then I just pull it out and see if it's got potential. So here's 3 different examples. This is a Tory Burch shirt that I bought thrifted, and it's got a great pattern, and I just pulled it out, and lo and behold, it was my size and it fit me. This Kate Spade dress that I had on yesterday, and if you haven't watched that video, you might want to do so. It was just this wonderful geranium red color. It's one of my favorite clothing colors, and I loved the texture of the fabric itself. And by the way, I bought this for $8.99, I believe. Yeah, $8.99. And someone out there, one of you followers, I so appreciate you letting me know. You looked it up. You found out the name of the dress itself. And then I researched it a little bit. And even on Poshmark, which is secondhand clothing, it was still $90, and the white version of it was $150. So who knows what it was originally, but I got a great deal, and I love it, and this will be my Christmas Eve outfit. Then thirdly, the other thing is just texture. If I see anything that has a wonderful texture that I just find appealing, again, it doesn't matter if it's a male clothing, female clothing. If I see an interesting texture that it might have potential either for apparel, for my wardrobe, or even to transform into a pillow cover or anything, then I will pull it out and take a look at it and see if it's got potential. So for me, that's pretty much what I do, is I look at texture, color, and pattern. And then lastly, of course, if you go in with a list and you're looking for just the perfect white tailored starched shirt, then obviously that's going to be a priority, and you'll look at that in that area. And I try not to limit myself to just what is in my size or what's in my department. So I just look at it from a gender neutral standpoint. And then lastly, I guess that brings me to this. Always, you shop your home first. You try to be discriminating and isolate what factors will determine what you might look at. So you may have projects or whatever. But I also practice something, no matter if it's secondhand shopping or it's firsthand shopping and I'm buying it new. And that is, if I've got a cart, I leave it in my cart for a while. I live with it for a while. I own it for a while. And if at the end of my shopping session, I still want it, then it's mine. But most of the time I can talk myself out of it. My original thoughts about it have changed, and I could almost see it already being returned to Goodwill. And if that's the case, then I just opt out, I remove it from my cart, and then I go home.